Your province is pacified. Take it, man. I'm fighting.
Take British law in this land.
That's not my aim
no,
at all.
I'm just asking.
No, that's not my aim at all. No.
So what do you believe some elements?
Sharia law. No, Sharia law. You have to understand what it means. For me, Sharia law.
It's about your life and how you live.
Sharia law is the Quran and the Sunnah, basically the Hadith of the Prophet. So for me, that's an individual endeavor. Yeah, if there's a majority Muslim nation which is at the top level and at the bottom level to implement Sharia is for Muslim people. It's not for non-Muslim people. So we're living in England. England's got 66 million population, the vast majority of which are not Muslim. Only 4.8% of the population is Muslim.
Well, they say it's 6%, but I think those figures are more lighter. It's more than 6%. But what I'm saying to you, right?
UK,
what country are your parents from? Egypt, right? So how would you feel if in Egypt you were living in Egypt,
yeah, and then
your government
we've been colonized for many hundreds of years by the British,
started importing.
So we know how it feels.
So this is revenge, basically.
No,
is this what you're saying?
I don't want it. Look, I've said to you, Sharia is only applicable for Muslims. It's not applicable for non-Muslims.
But then in Andalusia they had to live under Sharia law, didn't they? And they had to pay the jizya, so they were living under Sharia.
Andalusia was a Muslim majority country at that point in time.
That you'd taken from the Spanish.
Yeah, and the Spanish took it back.
But like with Jerusalem as well in Israel. Palestine is an illegitimate state.
There was crusades.
Yeah, which were a reaction to 500 years of Islamic. What was it? Pope Urban issued the first crusade in 1095. A race completely alien to God has overtaken the holy cities. Islam has been responsible.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. What do you know of Islam?
What do I know of Islam? Yeah. I'd say I know a bit. I don't know vast amount.
What is the basic tenets of Islam? What is the basics of Islam?
The 5 pillars of Islam. You believe in one God and you believe that Muhammad's the final messenger.
Okay, that's one of those pillars. So you have to share
you believe in charity.
Okay, what is it called?
Zakat.
Excellent. Now what else? You got 2.
I'm going to be struggling here a bit.
That's fine.
Stupid. So zakat. Yeah. You've got halal. No, that wouldn't class as it. No, so perhaps I don't know the rest of the 3.
So, what's your name, sorry?
James.
James, listen, I'm not here to try and catch you out.
Yeah.
I'm just here to try and educate you. Because at the end of the day, look, you wouldn't disagree with me that I probably know a little bit more about Islam than you do.
Well, I'd hope so, because it's your religion.
Right, exactly, right? So what
I don't know, I was born a Roman Catholic.
Excellent.
Most Roman Catholics don't know
I'm
shit
saying
about their
the
religion.
most important thing to build barriers, to build bridges of communication is for you to understand. You need to be, I'm not saying this in any kind of patronizing way, but you need to be educated because you only know 2 or 5 pillars of Islam.
But what I've seen of Islam, what I've seen of my country and the effects that Islam in general has had on the world.
Yes,
I mean, look at what the Palestinians are doing to the Israelis. It's disgusting.
Can I say you something? Sorry, James, was it James, yeah? James, what you're doing here, this is a fallacy, a logical fallacy, because what you're doing is you're taking a social extrapolation, what happens in society, and you're reducing it to one factor, which is in this case, Islam. But as we've discovered, you don't know enough about Islam to be able to make the links.
Okay.
Am I allowed to quote from the Quran in an Islamic country?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. No, it's an offence in Islam for an unbeliever.
To quote.
Yeah.
Maybe
So allow them.
Malaysia had
You can quote from their book, but do not allow them to quote from your book.
That's not right. There's nothing in the Quran or Sunnah that says
Can you tell me what countries have actually benefited from Sharia law?
Not one of them. There's not one prosperous Arab country in the world.
If you know anything about history, my friend, you'll know that there was the European, what's referred to in history as the European Dark Ages. At the same time, you had the Abbasid Empire, which was at that time, most of the scientific knowledge was transferred to the European countries. Now, the Renaissance, which started about 1485, which is also the early modern period, was literally taking and borrowing from the Arabs, in order to further a civilization. Now, I agree that there were a series of decisions that were made by Muslim countries from the early modern period onwards that were problematic for themselves and for others. And that's why we're facing some issues. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is that there is a difference between Muslims and Islam. You have to have a longitudinal as well as a holistic approach when you're looking at extrapolating from history. You can't just take one snapshot or some phenomena that are taking place and then make a case from that.
Let's take it back then, right?
I'm saying, but you still haven't really answered what country now in this day and age.
There's not one prosperous Islamic country in the whole world. That's why they're all coming here.
Prosperous ones, but not.
So are you talking about? That's a very good question, but it needs to be now reduced. Are you talking about economic prosperity? Are you talking about social prosperity? Are you talking about educational prosperity? What are we talking about?
Certainly economically, I mean, look at somewhere like Saudi Arabia, which is I find disgusting. But they're doing very well economically.
Give them a high five, they've just let women drive. It's
yeah, I mean,
2018
wow,
and they've just let women drive.
Right,
like
now, once
100
again,
years of development here, they just
always
started to
disagree
drive
with
there.
their policy not to let women drive. You know why? Because the Prophet's wives used to ride camels and horses. There was no restriction from a Quranic or Islamic perspective that would otherwise stop women from driving. Now, your assumption is that now a country of 29 million people, or 29 million over 1.7 or 1.8 billion individuals, yeah, that we should take as the be-all and end-all of what represents Islam. I say that's a false analogy. So
But
what if
I'm
they
still
let
looking
women
for a
drive?
country, though.
But you're not
that's
asking the
actually
question properly. Are you
beneficial
talking about
to
economics?
Can I just say this
Well,
last bit?
economics, certainly there are countries that have done very well
He was
economically.
asking, yeah.
There are ones that have done very well economically,
Yes,
but at
okay.
the expense of, I mean, look at human rights. I mean, the very thing that we're talking about here today is exactly what Saudi Arabia
All right, would
doesn't
you
have.
accept that also the West has been
Write your comments, what you
has
want
been
me
the
to ask
master
him
of,
and
or
I'll
the
ask him.
perpetrators of human rights abuses? I would say from with the pre-Napoleonic wars. Do you know what I would put it to? The age of discovery onwards, yeah, from around the same period of time we talked about, the West has been at the fore of imperial and empire expansion, and that has had the catastrophic effect.
I
and
thought
put
the
most
empire
people.
was great, personally. I mean, my own family were involved with the
No
East
problem.
India
I
Company.
haven't got a problem. There are views on the empire and all these things. I'm not saying that it was all bad. But what I'm saying to you is, what you have to understand is that when you talk about human rights, what exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about slavery because that happens more and has happened more in the West than any other place in the world?
No, slavery.
Wait, we're missing one crucial thing. You're
Right,
talking
well,
about
we can talk
slavery.
about it, yeah.
What's going on in Libya at the moment? Christians are being held by Muslims
Yes.
as slaves. Now, you said to me, why don't I like Islam? And I'm going to tell
Well,
you.
I'll tell you.
No, can I let me speak?
Of
Please
course,
let me
of
get
course,
this,
of
because I've
course.
watched you on YouTube for months, and I've seen the way you talk to people,
Yes.
and it winds me up. You follow a primitive of belief systems.
So,
You
okay,
follow
that's genetic fallacy.
no, but you
Genetic
follow a
fallacy.
belief system.
What's a primitive
but
belief
you-
system to you?
Well, look at Islam.
No, what does it mean?
Primitive.
What's
Stone
primitive?
Age. Belongs to the
Stone
7th
Age.
century.
Oh, talking of
Seven-
stones, yeah,
No,
stoning
the
women
difference
to
between
death,
Stone
that's
Age
one.
preceded the 7th century,
please
by the
just
way.
let me
Yes,
finish.
yes, of course.
I'm against Islam because I'm sick of Muslim grooming gangs. I'm sick of Islamic terrorist attacks in this country. I believe in... It's hard because
Yes.
what was the
say what you're
statistic
saying.
that came
Yes,
out?
yes, go ahead.
54% of British Muslims wouldn't report another Muslim to the British authorities. So we've got a huge problem in this country.
All right.
And how are we ever going to tackle it
Yeah,
and
you're
address
right.
it when people
James.
like me speak out about Islam and I get, oh, you're a fascist, you're
No,
a racist,
fair
you're
enough.
a Nazi.
What you're saying there, I say, look, I want to give him credit because what you said there, I believe, has a lot of merit, and we should not overlook the points he made. There is a problem, you could say, with grooming gangs. I've looked into the statistics. Some of them are skewed. Others would definitely suggest that there's a disproportionate Asian influence.
84 to 90%
Well, there's
of
different-
men, no, but of men
Yes,
are
yes.
Muslim.
But here-
the
of
predominantly
course.
the victims are white or black. They're not targeting Muslim children,
No, no,
and they
and the-
should be
no, but-
tried for racial hate crimes.
And
If
the
it
white
was a white
paedophile-
man, no, please let me
Yes, of
finish.
course,
If it was groups of white men going
Yes.
out raping Muslim
Well,
kids,
actually,
you'd be
okay.
burning the streets
James,
down.
can I say something? Make a point because you've made a very impassioned case. But I want to counter it by saying, in 2014,
Yeah.
there was an act passed in Parliament called the Modern Slavery Act.
Okay.
Every year from that year, they've been collating data as to how much human trafficking has been happening, who are the victims, and who are the perpetrators. And what we can find is that of the top 10 countries of which people are being trafficked, 5 of them are Muslim majority countries, including Afghanistan, Albania, Nigeria, which is half Muslim, etc. Now, what the point is here, the perpetrators of that kind of modern slavery, or otherwise known as human trafficking, are actually white men. But here, grooming gangs,
What's
a
happening
majority.
in Libya then?
Hold on. Before we talk about Libya, which we're both against, what's happening there, let's talk about what's happening in our backyard. So I'm saying to you that if you really have a problem with grooming, I believe, in my personal opinion, human trafficking is a heavier problem, is a bigger problem. You know why? Because people are being enslaved in our backyard, and we're not hearing about it. So who's doing the enslaving and who's doing the trafficking? What happens when we realize that it's white men doing the enslaving and the trafficking? So I would say, look, I'm not making this a racial issue. It's not a racial issue.
You always try and bring it back
They're
to...
targeted. Look, right? Like
Okay,
I said
fine.
before,
Not
if it was
all
groups
Muslims
of,
are-
no, they're not.
But you understand the point? I'm saying
I
that
understand.
just because, right? It's majority white men that are doing it. It doesn't mean now we're gonna say, yeah, that okay, there's a white problem, and that's what you need to adopt. That same.
If you
it's not
accept that
groups
it
of
is
white-
majority white
Do you
men
see what I'm
doing
saying?
it,
Yes.
I don't accept that.
Well,
And if you
Polaris,
look
for
at-
example, Polaris, which is a study in America, yeah, when it talks about human trafficking in America, they concluded that the majority of people that are actually trafficking, ethnic minorities happen to be white American men. The same thing applies. The same statistic applies to in Europe. Look at the data that the Parliament has actually put forward. 2014, up until this day, they've had the Modern Slavery Act, and after that, they've been commissioning data every year to see what the statistics are. And and the victims of that are always ethnic minorities. But why do we not talk about it?
Every time slavery is talked about, it becomes white on black issue, on coloured issue. Whereas it goes back, everyone's done it through history. Even the North African Barbaries were taking white people from Cornwall.
I'm not denying that.
I'm not denying that.
But what I'm saying is today, we're talking about British policies that potentially we can change and we have a voice to change. So why are we talking about Libya, which we know doesn't even have a stable government, has ISIS has taken over? We both against it. It's a bit of a waste of time. We don't agree with them. We're on your side on that one. Yeah?
But still, I can't.
Right?
So I can't accept all your facts there, but it's good to talk.
No, it's good to always absorb. I've absorbed what you said. I hope you absorb what I've said.
Well,
you can think about it.
Yeah.